Good morning, Nigeria. I make you welcome. This is Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television from our corporate headquarters in Lagos State in Nigeria. I am Henry Igwebike, and we'll kick off this morning with what we have from our newspapers, and right after that will be a main conversation also for today. Do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can find us, reach us when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am very so honored to have with me, joining me via Zoom from Lagos State, Nigeria, Mr. Gbenga Komolafe, General Secretary, Federation of Informal Workers Organization of Nigeria. Good morning to you, Mr. Komolafe, and thank you for being my guest today.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Can you hear me, sir? All right, so let's try to see if we can get that connection going on, because I can hear him. But of course, today would be another great and interesting time right here on Enterprise Television. We have a long list of newspapers that hopefully we would go through just before we get into our main conversation for today. We have the Guardian newspaper, we have the Vanguard, we have the Weekend Trust, which is the weekend version of the Daily Trust newspaper, and also we have the Saturday Punch newspaper. Can you hear me, sir?
Very well. Very well. I'm hearing you.
All right, so let's just before we get that connection going on, let's see what's happening from the Saturday Vanguard newspaper. We have the big story: economy. Experts disagree with federal government on performance. We have a long list of riders to that particular story. We have the first one, which says Nigeria's economic improvement largely on paper. That's coming from Action Aid. Stability, not enough. We are in a very embarrassing situation. And we have another rider to that story. Nigeria still in debt trap. Economy has not turned corner. And economy looks healthier in charts than it feels in households. Economic reforms. We are on the right path. And that's coming from Muda Yusuf. Different strokes for different folks right there. But the Nigerians living in Nigeria can testify if whether the economy under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had turned the corner, and especially with the growing desperation on the streets and on the faces of Nigerians. We have other interesting story from the top strip. Court holds a PDP convention. It will go on, but the judge insists clashes with Wike and Lamido. We have other growing stories. Blue economy worry cocoa ports slash turnaround time erode Lagos congestion, and that's what we have on the top strip there. And on the bottom strip we have Wike versus Yerima. Tinubu intervenes, peace returns to Abuja disputed land. I guess that's one of the things we'll have to talk about on our main conversation for today. And we have another interesting one. Tinubu reappoints Buba Marwa as NDLEA boss. Good morning, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you very well.
All right. Thank you so very much for your time, as always. So I would love us to start with the Saturday Vanguard newspaper. Economy. Experts disagree with federal government on performance, and we have a long list of riders. Some say that the turnaround for the economy is on paper, and those within the corridors of power said it is not on paper. So how do we distill which is which? Especially as Nigerians living in Nigeria, we can feel the pain and understand what the issues are. But speak to me on what you think on this particular story.
Well, I think, like you said, Nigerians are in a better position to tell whether the economy is performing very well or it's still in the doldrums. And that is better measured by the cost of living. Yes, it is true that right now, cost of food has significantly reduced, and that's not surprising. This part of the year, we have a lot of harvest of food crops, and because of poor storage facilities, and of course, most of these food crops will be so cheap in this harvest period. And in a few months' time, we'll be back to food farming situation. So that should not delude us to the fact that other factor costs still remain extremely high. Cost of electricity. In fact, we have lost count of how many times electricity tariff has been hiked in the past few years. Electricity remains extremely costly. Even data for airtime for communication by the popular GSM has gone astronomical. A few people can easily afford to buy airtime for communications. Of course, we all know the cost of building materials. Another very important factor cost remain on the high side. And these have dire implications for production. It means cost of production remains very high. And it also means that with the depressed pockets of most Nigerians, few people can afford to actually buy the most basic necessities. So from what everyone can see, it's clear that most Nigerians are struggling right now. I don't want to talk about cost of fuel, which, as somebody said, we should be jubilating because there was a slight reduction. But we also would like to remind them that a reduction from maybe 1,000 naira to 930 naira is nothing to celebrate over, especially since the benchmark was about 160 naira before the subsidy on fuel was removed a few years ago on the inception of the Tinubu administration. So I think we can only jubilate about cost of fuel coming down if it goes back to what it was before the so-called subsidy removal, or even lower than what it was at that time. Then we can truly say that there's been an improvement. So with high cost of energy, electricity, fuel, and other factor costs, there's no doubt that most Nigerians are barely scraping by. And I want to add to this economic situation some of the extremely insensitive policies of the government, especially in cities like Lagos, where we have a spate of evictions. We have the massive eviction in Oworonshoki, which everybody now agrees is just about land grabbers seizing people's land to develop those areas for the billionaires. So it was a case of massive dispossession of people's homes. And coming at this time is more than double whammy for poor working people. And this is not new. Over 1,000 of such communities have suffered similar fates over the past 2 decades, with estimated over 1 million people evicted from their homes and livelihoods.
And unfortunately, sir, sorry to interject there. Unfortunately, we do not have enough data, to worry about the informal sector, especially entrepreneurs and enterprises that have had their businesses closed down as a result of this impulsive decision and policies of the government. And why do you think the government of the day fails to understand deliberately that the informal sector of any economy anywhere in the world is the scaffold on which the economy rests? Rather, they depend on the portfolio investors and make us feel like Nigeria is doing well while the informal sector is dying.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, really. Unlike other developed parts of the world, especially the industrialized countries, if the informal sector, or what we broadly call the informal economy in sub-Saharan Africa, employs well over 90%. The latest statistics from Nigerian Bureau of Statistics actually put the figure at 93%. So 93% of active working population are engaged in the informal economy. But unfortunately, like you rightly noted, we have very poor policies to address the gaping development challenges in the informal economy. If we begin to talk to that, but I can briefly broach some of the basic issues. First of all is the palpable absence of social protection of any type. People grow old, nobody cares about any form of old age care and support system, or what we call pension. And of course, when we talk of old age and support, it even goes beyond pension. But even that is not available in the informal economy. And of course, the women of reproductive age in the informal economy are on their own when they get pregnant. And so Nigeria continues to have the unviable record of being one of those who record the highest maternal mortality worldwide. We are one of the highest maternal mortality rates. And that happens in the informal economy because these are people that will not go to the hospital simply because they can't afford the cost of Medicare until it's too late. And usually a lot of women lose their lives and their babies to this terrible situation. So we can go on and on. But it may not be completely true that we don't have data. We must commend the efforts of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics in recent years. They've actually come up with a lot of data that sectorally demonstrates the prevalence of the informal economy in the economy, and the fact that this one sector that has been lacking in basic infrastructure to work, poor, dismal working conditions. We can talk to issues around occupational health and safety, for instance. We have made a point that just very minimal investments in occupational health and safety, education, and facilities will make a long way to boost productivity and transform working conditions. Welders still go blind because they don't use protective goggles, because they were not trained in the use of protective goggles. Mechanics, especially spray painters, still do their painting without wearing relevant protective clothing, and that exposes them to leukemia or blood cancer. Of course, we are all familiar with the women, especially the rural women who fry our gari that sustain us in the cities. Of course, these women suffer a lot of eye problems because of the smoke that got into their eyes. So we can go on and on. The fact being that there's palpable lack of governance and provision of the most basic infrastructural facilities and amenities to make life, to make working conditions worthwhile, to boost productivity and actually invariably advance the economy. So these are some of the issues we have been pushing for. And the point has been severally made that you can't ignore where 93% of your working population, work and hope to achieve anything. Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. But let's move on to the Weekend Trust, which is the version of the Daily Trust for the Weekend, the newspaper. Now let's look at the big story here. Bandits kills 16 vigilantes, they kidnap 42 in Niger. Now the big elephant in the room, Katsina, peace deals without a peace. I'd love us to speak to this issue. This is becoming a new normal in Nigeria, where people are killed, and it's for us normal, as much as it is not a large number, in the rate of 500 persons killed. Once it's between 1 to 50, for us it's normal. But it's a very big issue. Speak to me on Katsina's peace deal without peace. We've seen rural communities have a peace deal with bandits, and the same bandits will turn around to go hunt and kill people in such communities, while our security agencies and the government of the day sit like spectators watching. Speak to me on this and how this affects Nigeria, our economy, businesses, and investment from different parts of the world to Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the truth is that what they call peace deals is an atrocious assault on our collective sensibilities. People pick up arms against society. They kidnap, they indulge in wanton killings. And the best we can do is to say we want to make peace. How do you make peace with armed bandits that have decided to make a living through massive killings, disruptions of life, economic activities, kidnappings for ransom, and so on and so forth? In all civilized world, such people are dealt with the harsher severity of the law. You don't make peace with killers. We can address the developmental challenges that constitute some of the underlying factors for banditry. We cannot lose sight of that fact, of the fact that a lot of these people are driven to this extreme because of some of the issues we've talked about. The absence of social protection that elude overwhelming percentage of Nigerians. The fact that people don't even have a job, people don't even have employment. And so, like they say, the high hand is the devil's workshop. And the fact that politicians also harm these people. They harm them for elections, during electoral periods. And when elections are over, it's not so easy to disarm. And so these people go around with their arms. So the extreme violent nature of our politics, the terrible dismal state of our political economy, explains why we're having this problem. And there's no way of solving it without also addressing some of these underlying issues. But be that as it may, the fact still remains that those who made the conscious choice of unleashing mayhem on society, for whatever reason, cannot be dealt with some of the cozy, in the cozy way that politicians have been relating with them. There's no way we can be making peace with people who have made a choice to unleash violence on society. So that approach has got to change. The point has been made severally that these so-called bandits are known to our security agencies, but there has been a lack of political will on the side of the political leaders to actually go after them. And so they prefer these cozy, meetings with bandits and having useless agreements that, not surprisingly, I never respected. I don't know anywhere in the world where bandits respect agreements. If they respect agreements, they wouldn't be bandits in the first instance. And so this attitude has to change. Government has to deploy force when necessary to deal with this situation, by also addressing some of the serious social, political issues that actually have given rise to banditry in the first instance. Politicians must stop harming people because of elections. We must talk to that. And of course, we also have to address the issue of mass youth unemployment. which also fuel this problem.
Very well said. The socio-economic issues, others have blamed a climate change as some of the causes to some of these things. Be that as it may, whatever is broken, can be fixed, but it only takes an expert, to do that. I do not know if the leadership structure we have are truly experts who understand the remote cause of some of these things and how to solve them. But of course, we truly do hope as good Nigerians that things will get better. We will be right back. That is when we return, where we have it that Wike clarifies the remarks after clash with naval officer over Abuja land dispute. In a bit, it's still Enterprise Weekend. Don't go anywhere. My guest will be right back. Thank you once more for being back, and if you just joined us, this is Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our conversation for today. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCTA, Nyesom Wike, has clarified his confrontation with a naval officer during a demolition exercise in Abuja's Gaduwa district, insisting he was misinterpreted and never called any military personnel a fool. The clash occurred when FCTA officials attempted to enforce a demolition order on an allegedly illegal structure linked to retired Vice Admiral Awwal Gambo, but were resisted by armed officers at the site. Wike said his remarks were directed at the act of carrying out an illegal order, not at the military as an institution, stressing that he respected the role the armed forces play in fighting insecurity and has always supported the security agencies. Reacting to the incident, Minister of State for Defense Bello Matawalle said the exchange between Wike and Lieutenant A, Yerima, was unnecessary and should have been handled through proper military and administrative channels. Matawalle revealed that Wike had already contacted the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Naval Staff, who advised him to allow internal military investigation before taking action. He commended the naval officer for his professionalism, noting that Yerima was simply obeying instructions and maintained discipline despite the tense situation. Let's get talking. I still have with me Mr. Winga. Thank you so very much for being here. I truly do appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's get talking. Of course, this is one incident that would go on and on for the next 2 weeks or so before it finally dies down and another issue would take over. But as we still have it, let's talk about it. Wike is, of course, very tough and handy. Sometimes he goes overboard on doing the right things. But I love your say on what of course, what Wike had said, that he did not call the personnel a fool. We all heard when he said, "You are a fool." So why is Wike going back on his statement at this point?
Well, I think Wike's recent vote first is actually an afterthought. The point is that Wike, as FCT minister, had no business being in that place. As FCT minister, if he had reason to enforce any rule or standard, there are procedures that we would have expected that he would follow in enforcing such a standard. But that, in my opinion, that in itself does not exonerate the fact that that military officer was also on an illegal assignment. I completely agree. I mean, I completely disagree with the sentiment that the guy was calm, he was doing his job, blah, 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 blah. A military officer has no business providing security for a private estate or whoever. be it retired general or whatever. That's not the business. That's not why Nigeria invested in his training. He was not trained to be protecting security for private individuals.
Not
And
private
we have to address
individuals.
this issue.
His boss, who is a former military officer, and
He was in that place. He was in that place to provide security on behalf of a retired naval officer. A retired naval officer is a private Nigerian. Let's even assume, for purpose of argument, that the land belongs or is allegedly belongs to even a serving.
All right, I think we have a lot of communication there. Mr. Gbenga Komolafe was speaking to the issue of the fracas that ensued between Nyesom Wike and the young personnel, military personnel, and he was stating the fact that the young man was not supposed to be there in the first place, and Nigeria did not invest so much in their training for him to go protecting properties that belongs to individuals. Of course, different strokes for different folks. Lots of people might not really, go that route, stating the fact that all of this is more of an administrative work that should have been taken care of, from the FCT ministry, and not Nyesom Wike, making himself available or debasing the status of his office, being there in the first place. We hope to get Mr. Gbenga Komolafe to finish up on that particular thought, and we have a long list of other questions and inquiry that we need to get going on this particular program this morning. So I'll be right back, and when we return, we will do some more talking. Is he back?
My people, the elections are around the corner. Before you know it, it will be 2027. But before then, for you to partake in the election, you must have your voter's card. And for you to have your voter's card, you must register. INEC has rolled out the drums. We call this program Continuous Voters Registration. And it is for you to register. This is to do that if you want to vote. And it's important that you take part in the process of voting. Just go there, give them your name and your address. That's all. And of course, they will capture you, take your picture, and that's all. You are done. Within 5 minutes, you are done. And after that, when the time comes, they call it claims and objection time. That's when you look at it. They will paste all the results or the names of those that have registered all over the places. You will go to the place you register, check your name that is well spelled, and the information you've given them correct. And that's all. After some time again,
on ground. Gbenga Komolafe was speaking to that particular issue. Thank you so very much, sir, for being back. Sincerely apologize for the little inconvenience we had.
It's okay. Yeah, I was trying to make the point that
Yes,
a military officer has no business doing security or sentry duty on the private property of a Nigerian, however highly placed. I don't care whether that Nigerian is a retired general or a serving general. A military officer of that rank or of any rank whatsoever has no business protecting private properties. And it's high time Nigerians begin to address this issue. Almost 1/3 of the entire Nigerian police force, if not more, are deployed to provide security services to a few privileged Nigerians, mostly politicians, and also soldiers who should be on more serious duties. Where Nigeria is currently faced with the issue of banditry. We just talked about the challenge of insecurity all over Nigeria. And we have our policemen and security officials, highly trained people deployed to provide sentry duty on private properties. It is unacceptable. I can understand the overriding public sentiment against Wike. Wike is obviously a very, perhaps the most unpopular public official in Nigeria today. No thanks to his attitude, no thanks to his extremely overbearing conduct. Since he was governor of Rivers State, Wike has been known to trample on individual rights of Nigerians with stark impunity. We've heard stories of how Wike actually demolished properties of political opponents while he was governor. And since he has become minister of the FCT, we have also had stories. We've seen how Wike has deployed the authority of that office to award himself, his children, his family members, political associates, land. And sometimes he will seize this land from people who probably duly, got approval to those land and reward them to his cronies. So Nigerians are aware of this, and that antipathy translated to support for the young military officer. But in my opinion, the military officer was not necessarily right.
But that is not coming from the military as an organization, as an institution, do not have the same feeling like you do. They said that they can only discipline a military personnel who is not in the right place at the right time. And the CDS actually said that he was in the right place at the right time and therefore does not need to be punished. So if the military as an institution is, sliding in for their personnel, why do you think we should differ on what we think the responsibility of that young man is at the time?
I'm saying military authorities have also been abusing their position and privilege to actually deploy military personnel for sentry duties, to provide private security services. That guy was on that land that belonged to a retired naval officer. So there's no way that could have been an official assignment. Let's face the fact. So the fact that the CDA is defending it does not make it right. And I honestly think Nigerians should be concerned on how military personnel and military security resources are being abused. Nobody is talking to that fact. Yes, Wike had no business being in that place. That is correct. But the truth also remains that that young man also had no business providing sentry service for whosoever. If the owner of that land required security service to be provided, he had more than enough resources to, like the rest of us Nigerians do, engage private security services. So this point must be made. A lot of policemen, a lot of security personnel are deployed to private homes to provide private security services to politicians and powerful Nigerians, while most of us are left defenseless. So for me, two wrongs don't make it right. I don't see the merit on both sides. What the incident has helped to expose the culture of impunity and abuse which Nigerian officials, have become renowned for. Wike, being in that place with his very uncouth language, addressing that officer, exhibited, that culture of impunity. The officer also, though we can commend his demeanor, which remained very controlled And of course, we must also commend the fact that he actually, lived up to the billing that is truly a well-trained officer, cadet of the Nigerian of the Nigerian Army. But for me, it's important that we should all be concerned about the fact that military security personnel generally are deployed in a way that amounts to abuse, because I strongly hold that powerful people, especially high security personnel, military officers, don't really have a right to be deploying soldiers to, if it's you that has a private property, you will not have access to bring soldiers to help you guard that property. If you need to provide security, which is what Nigerians do, all of us have to do it. All Nigerians have to provide security for themselves. We employ security guards, both professional and unprofessional security guards. That's what in the more affluent middle class, upper middle class areas of Lagos, we have gated communities that are manned by security personnel deployed by the communities, paid for by the communities. So if anybody wants to protect his property, he should go and employ a security personnel to do so, not to deploy a serving military officer to deploy his own private property. That's the point I'm making. For me, it amounts to gross abuse.
Yes, very well. I truly do agree with you that two wrongs never makes a right. But given the dilapidated society that we live in, where processes are not respected, what do you think is the best way to go about the situation? Like you did say rightly, if the retired naval officer had employed the services of a police force, that property would definitely have been demolished. We have a story right now at Oworoshoki. The only standing building there that wasn't demolished by the Lagos state government was because it was guarded by a military officer or officers, and that was why it wasn't demolished. So how do you think we can save, personal properties without going this route of employing people who would go arm to arm with the authority and maybe live a civil life in Nigeria?
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was trying to make, that this is an overriding culture of impunity all around. So if I'm not a soldier, I'm not a military officer, I cannot protect my property. It can be subjected to wanton destruction by politicians, by the government, and those who are close to them. No sane society is run that way. There are systems and processes and institutions that are supposed to provide services, to address this kind of circumstance. Nigerians are supposed to have access, broadly speaking, to security. Nigerians are supposed to enjoy the right to private property, irrespective of their status, whether they are soldier or civilian, rich or poor. But that's not the case. And that's actually why we are that's one of the remote causes of this banditry. The point has been made severally by many experts, especially sociologists, that each time you subject an appreciable number of people to violence and push them to a situation of desperation, a significant percentage of those people, not all, not even the majority, but a tiny percentage, which is significant enough, will constitute security threat. Because people will resort to self-help. People will lose faith in established security architecture to address their grievances and to address their feeling of palpable injustices. People will want to fight back, whichever way they can. And that's one of the reasons we're having increasing cases of banditry and violence in our society, because the powerful subject the weaker members, which I want to be the vast majority, to impunity and mindless violence. That must stop. And I think, for me, the lesson from what has happened between Wike and that young military officer is to highlight the salience of this fact that our military institutions, the army, the police, are in place to provide security to Nigerians, not to themselves, primarily. That point should be made. In a situation where more than 1/3 or even maybe half of the entire member of Nigerian police force are doing sentry duty in politicians' homes, it's not good enough. And the rest of us have to make do with whatever makeshift security arrangement we can put up. That's not good enough. And so the point really is that our politicians should be prevailed upon to follow due process, to stop engaging in mindless evictions and destruction of people's properties, and also to ensure that state institutions are not abused to their own private advantage and the general, disadvantage of the rest of us.
Very well said, sir. I truly do appreciate you. Thanks goodness. President has intervened in that particular issue, and we learned that everything has been resolved amicably, which means that Nyesom Wike might not demolish that building, and that, of course, the respect for institutions, especially the military, would be adhered to. But most importantly, the desires of our court is to ensure that everyone receives justice. But a situation where court orders are violated, Nyesom Wike has violated court orders of stopping him demolishing properties, but he has gone ahead to do that many times. So all of this, I guess, should be taken care of. Thank you so very much, sir. We truly do appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So that's about the time we have for today. We'd love to say thank you for making this a day. Please do well to follow us. You can find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally rewatch if you may, or download to watch later when you visit us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching, and have yourself a blessed weekend. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. I'll see you. Bye-bye.